Prepare to be stunned. America was gripped by the love triangle tragedy of Sabrina and Robert Limon and Jonathan Hunter, a deadly tale of lust, betrayal, hidden truths, and a deadly scheme that sealed Robert's fate. Sabrina and Robert Limon seemed to have it. 2 kids, a happy facade.
What is meant by that?
It was usually Sabrina and I, and then we would go have sex with our husbands.
And Jason,
Yes.
when that was done, you would go to separate locations.
Well, in the same room, but not together, yeah.
But the truth is that in secret, their marriage turned dark as they began embracing a swinging lifestyle. And it's amongst all this that Sabrina met Jonathan Hearn, a fiery young firefighter, igniting a passionate affair. And it was at this point that a sinister scheme to end Robert's life began to unfold. A tale that rattled the small American town of Silver Lakes, exposing the treacherous web woven by lust and lies. A grim love triangle that serves as a haunting reminder of how desire's grip can drive people to unspeakable ends, and the shocking, the ruin that such choices can bring.
Felt like, I felt like this is a very way, but yet I continued. There's really no explanation for my behavior as far as that goes. Now that I see it like this, it's almost like talking and
So let's set the scene. In the case of Sabrina and Robert Limon, they appear to have that perfect Hollywood version of the ideal life. The 2 kids, a beautiful home. They were pillars in their community. You know, that proper traditional American as apple pie nonsense that we were fed growing up as kids. You know the stuff, the white picket fences and all of that nonsense. Well, Robert and Sabrina's life shimmered with apparent perfection. There were parties, barbecues, boating, a canvas of happiness. Robbie and Leanna, their 2 children, cherished jewels within their lives. Robert was a mechanic. Sabrina had her part-time role. They were pillars of stability behind closed doors, however. Their marriage was far from traditional. So Sabrina and Robert decided they wanted to explore the world of swinging, opening up their marriage and everything else to sexual relationships with other couples. So they attended parties turned to orgies, and they even swapped partners with friends. This unconventional lifestyle seemed to bring excitement and fulfillment to their lives. So as they delved a little deeper into the swinging scene, they also began to introduce alcohol into their encounters. Apparently, many people use alcohol as a way to relax and engage in activities that they wouldn't normally consider.
Now, why were you drinking so much after the sacred bond with Robert was broken?
Well, that's how we functioned. I would not have behaved the way that I behaved and done the things that I had done without being under the influence, for sure.
So you were covering the pain.
At the time, I didn't realize it, but over time, it definitely was covering the pain with drinking.
Everything was going along fine. Cracks, however, were beginning to appear in their relationship. Robert is addicted to pornography now, and he's neglecting Sabrina, both emotionally and sexually. Sabrina feels neglected, Robert is addicted to porn, and into this mix comes Jonathan Hearn, a young firefighter. Sabrina and Jonathan meet and soon develop a romantic friendship or relationship, whichever one you.
At what point did it become a sexual relationship? A year later. So we talked for 2014. So this year? Before that. If you met him in 2014. Probably, let's say, talked for like, I am honestly super bad with time and dates. Okay. Let's just round about 8 months maybe. Or 6 months or something like that. Like it wasn't right away, anything like that, you know.
And this love triangle ultimately led to a tragic outcome. Robert and Sabrina were into a swinging lifestyle. So you got the keys, you've got the permission, you've got the papers. You can do what it is you please. So they're in this Tarzan lifestyle, swinging. Come on, get with the program, man. And the whole thing with swinging, apparently, so sex, you don't get emotionally involved. There's a community here in Silver Lakes. There's there's friends and there's a community of swingers. You have sex, you have a good time, but you don't get involved. Sabrina, however, finds herself emotionally involved with Dale, a close friend of Robert. And so Dale, who was a close friend of Robert, is now clearly a close friend of Sabrina. This emotional connection was causing a strain on both Sabrina's marriage with Robert and Dale's relationship with his wife, Nicole. Robert says, hey, look, listen, you need to cut this out. I'm not having it. Sex is fine. Emotions, how dare you?
During the time that you and Dale were involved in this relationship, was Rob aware that you were basically involved in this relationship with Dale?
Yes, he was.
At some point, did Rob have you cut off the relationship with Dale?
Yes, he did.
Why did that occur?
Because Robert didn't want anybody else to know that we opened up our marriage with them.
Into this mix apparently wanders young Jonathan. Jonathan is 11 years younger than Sabrina. Bear that in mind, because there's some other details, but he's a young guy. He's significantly younger than Sabrina. But Sabrina is attracted to this guy, and, well, she's a swinger, so come on. I mean, come on. You don't really expect him to have just stayed and cuddled him, kiss him. No. She's a swinger. Therefore, they begin to have sex. The problem here is that Sabrina is one of these people that develops feelings. She can't just do the swinging thing. But anyway, let's go back a little again, because I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's find out where this affair actually begins. Because everybody's happy, there's a swinging lifestyle going on, you go from here to there. But Sabrina works in a Costco, and during the course of work, apparently, good old, what's his face? What's his name again? Jonathan. This all starts when Sabrina meets Jonathan Hearn, a young and religious firefighter, while working at the Costco. Struck up a conversation and discovered they had a mutual friend. Oh, I swing, you swing. I don't know. I'm just surmising. But they had a mutual friend, and I would assume, because I'm not sure on this one, I would assume that perhaps it was someone who was also involved in the whole swinging lifestyle. She likes Jonathan. Jonathan likes her. 1 + 1 always equals 2, you know. I'm just saying, you know, she's a swinger. I don't know whether he was, but he's a young man, 24. Here's a woman of 35 who's throwing herself at you, perhaps. What would you do if you was a young man? Oh, she's married. But she's a swinger. Bear that one in mind. Despite all of their attempts, bear this in mind once again, all of their attempts to remain friends, their relationship quickly turned romantic.
And then he's like, well, maybe I'll see you there. Like, what's your number? And I had never given out my number to like a stranger before. And I did. I instantly like felt just like, oh my gosh. And I had thought prior to that I had mentioned Robert, you know. And I always do. That's like my protection, especially with other, you know, men. You know, like I always brought up Robert right away. So I had never done that before. And I felt bad. And but then he called and messaged me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I got myself into, so I didn't answer it or respond. And he apologized. He was like, "Are you married? I'm so sorry." And then I put, "Yeah, I thought that you knew that. It's no problem. It's okay." And that's how that started.
Sabrina sees Jonathan as her first love, someone she envisioned a future with. The affair, because they are now having an affair, doesn't go unnoticed. Robert confronts Jonathan about his involvement with Sabrina, and although Jonathan denies a full-blown sexual affair, he does admit that things were flirtatious. Sabrina promises to end the affair, or the flirtatious, as Jonathan liked to call it, to maintain this image of a perfect... What image is this woman talking about? Seriously.
Was Robert, based on what you observed of Robert's demeanor, was he angry?
He wasn't happy.
Did he do anything with your phone after he finished talking to Jonathan?
Yeah, he broke my phone.
But anyway, time goes on. She says she's going to stop it. She does for a minute or two. But then she resumes contact with Jonathan, claiming that her husband was exploitative and controlling. And she paints a picture of a marriage lacking in love and with concern for their family.
Over time, did yours and Rob marriage change in some way? And how did your relationship with Rob change?
We opened our marriage bed, and it changed the dynamics of our sacred bond.
She's having an affair. Bear in mind, she could have just been having sex because she had the keys. She had the permission. She's a swinger. So she didn't need to go behind backs and do any of that. And Jonathan has high Christian morals, as does Sabrina, because they're Christians with values. I'm not even being funny or nothing. I'm trying to set the scene here. But she's painting out Robert as a bad guy, controlling, manipulative. I don't know. Say no more, that's what I say. Least said, soon is mended. But between the two of them, they decide, because Robert's such a controlling guy and Sabrina wants out. And as far as she's concerned, Robert would rather die. Robert would rather die than get a divorce. I don't think that's true, I think Robert would have taken the divorce rather than to die. So between the two of them, Sabrina and Jonathan, they planned to poison Robert using arsenic trioxide disguised in his favorite foods. The motive being that they wanted to be together. This trioxide poisoning, I don't know what really happened here. I've got to be honest, because Jonathan swears that they discussed this, him and Sabrina, and that apparently Robert had a rare medical condition which would make it difficult to detect the poisoning symptoms. She suggests particular foods such as a wrap from Costco, banana pudding, all potential vehicles for the poison. Put the poison in the food. These are his favorite things. Give it to him, eat whatever.
Did you have any other methods in mind?
Briefly considered some others, yes, but
And when you came up with these methods, was this by yourself or in conjunction with Miss Limon?
in conjunction with Sabrina.
And Jonathan did duly purchase the arsenic trioxide online, had it delivered to his grandparents' art studio. So clever boy this. So as to avoid suspicion, he even conducts tests on a neighbor's dog to get the effective dosage just right. All this was apparently established by the police. All established. But for some reason, either they didn't go through with it or it didn't work. And that was supposed to be on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I tell you. Yes, they were going to kill this man on Valentine's Day. Shocking. That doesn't happen. Fast forward August 2014. Jonathan's morning is marked by a trip to Walmart for some ammo, has some adhesive flashing to transform his motorcycle's appearance, got a backpack, a mask resembling an old man, and a makeshift silencer assembled. Why he didn't buy a proper silencer, I don't know. But he made one out of a Maglite barrel. Gets himself some dark clothing. He wasn't mucking around here. August 17th, stalks his quarry. Robert's gone to work. Jonathan follows him, reaches the rail yard where Robert works. Now, across the street, Jonathan is observing Robert, his movements and the likes, and he sees that an opportunity to kill Robert, because he's got a gun, as we know. Opportunity comes. Steels himself for this. Right. I'm gonna do this. You know how it is when you're gonna kill someone. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Funny thing is, for some unknown reason, I don't know how, but he happens to, I don't know whether it's bump into Robert or Robert sees him and they have a conversation. Well, during the course of the conversation, Jonathan pulls out a gun, shoots Robert once. Robert's done for. Jonathan has killed him, makes a quick call. He manipulates. Robert fires once. He fires twice. During the course of the conversation, Jonathan pulls out his gun, shoots Robert once, shoots him twice. Robert's done for. Jonathan calls Sabrina with confirmation. The deed is done. Robert is dead. A short time later, a co-worker stumbles upon Robert's dead body. So, the deed is done. It's now up to the police to find out what happens. And an investigation commences with the aim of finding the murderer, Robert Limon. Now, spouses are always the first people who are suspected. Robert's been killed. And the police are looking for surveillance footage. You know, these days every business has got CCTV outside. So what they're trying to do is retrace his steps, see if they can find some indication of what happened, what occurred. Because it has to be said, Robert was a very popular guy, apparently. Everybody loved Robert. He was just a good guy. So the police on this case straight away. And footage from the rail yard where Robert was killed shows an unknown man limping around. Now, that raises suspicions about his possible involvement. Some unknown man just limping around. Come on. So it's crucial that the police identify this man and determine his connection to the case. And this is where the old Good Samaritan comes in. A nearby company comes forward with surveillance video that shows Robert Limon on the road leading to his office, along with multiple other vehicles. All of these motorists, except for a man on a motorcycle, were identified. Now we're getting somewhere. This mysterious motorcyclist has become a person of interest, but his identity remains unknown. The search for surveillance footage played a crucial role in identifying potential suspects and unraveling the complex web of relationships involved in this tragic case. And it does highlight the importance, in this day and time, of technological resources in modern investigations and how they can provide key evidence that ultimately leads to justice. We have the discovery of this mysterious motorcyclist and his connection to the case. In the investigation into the death of Robert Limon, a crucial breakthrough comes when this mysterious motorcyclist becomes a key focus of the investigation. But it's about 2 weeks after Robert's death, the police receive a tip from a friend of the Limons. And it really was this tip that led investigators to identify Jonathan Hearn as the mysterious motorcyclist seen in the surveillance footage.
Now, when you first received the information, the description, John, and all that followed, what did you think?
I was caught.
So when you first heard the description of John, white male, leaving on a motorcycle, it was pretty obvious to you who they were talking about.
It was.
Then further investigation reveals that Hearn and Sabrina were in an affair, which started as we know when they met at a Costco's where Sabrina worked part-time. Now, Jonathan and Sabrina are the prime suspects. But believing that someone is guilty and proving that someone is guilty are two different things. So, to gather more evidence, detectives decided to wiretap Sabrina and Hearn's phones. And while some of the conversations were intriguing, there was nothing that directly implicated them in Robert's murder. But these were the only two people with any kind of motive. So to test Sabrina's reaction, investigators pulled a little bit of a fast one. What they did was they actually fed her some false information to see how she'd respond to that. She immediately called Jonathan Hearn, on a burner phone to alert him about the new details, which once again starts to substantiate and gives further it's adding weight to the suspicions. Now you're starting to think, now the biting makes sense. You know what I mean?
Beeping sounds on some of her calls, but that's the only thing we really discussed as far as that she had noticed.
Okay. That evening that the wiretap is from, November 11th, did you think you were going to be arrested that day?
I did.
That really did lead the police down a new path, ultimately, which led to them solving the case, kind of comes from Jonathan Hearn himself. Because for some unknown reason, he calls up a friend of the Limons, Jason Bernatine, and leaves a voicemail expressing remorse for Robert's death.
A lot of increasing weight of guilt and of just sort of conflict and inner turmoil on almost every level of my life. And so this being the November 13th, just days before I was arrested, these are literally the final stages of that inner conflict that I dealt with. I was very, very near to throwing in the towel, to surrendering and finally acknowledging the grievous nature of my sin. So it's kind of a strange mix of incomplete theology, I guess you could say. Here I'm talking about all the good things about God and this purpose that I think He has for life, and yet I was just on the other side of the tipping point of finally acknowledging sin, which I'm not trying to give anyone in this room a lesson in theology. I'm in no place to do that, but I think we could all agree that the most basic aspect of receiving forgiveness is to have acknowledged one's sin. And so I was literally days away from that, but these are the murmurings of someone who's coming very close to confessing or repenting or acknowledging, I guess you could say, their sin.
Seriously, why did he do that? The police were going nowhere fast in this one because there was no real evidence, I suppose. But I don't know whether he felt he needed salvation or something like that, but he might as well have given himself up, really and truly, because that piece of evidence, or not even, well, was it evidence, or that tip is what really had the police now on Jonathan Hearn's case. So they arrest him. They arrested both Sabrina and Hearn on suspicion of killing Robert. And at Jonathan Hearn's residence, police discovered items matching the description of the mystery man seen on the surveillance footage near the crime scene. And it's at this point that Hearn struck a plea deal that involved testifying against Sabrina in exchange for a reduced sentence. Hearn admits to killing Robert and alleges that Sabrina helped plan it. She rejected his suggestion of a divorce because remember when I said that she said that Robert would rather be dead than divorced? But in the trial, Jonathan turns on Sabrina. She was convicted 4 out of 6 charges and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Hearn, on the other hand, was convicted of manslaughter and received a sentence of 25 years and 4 months. Now, I've got to say something. Just a little tip for any potential murderers out there. No, I'm being serious. Look at it this way, yeah? I'm assuming you've never done this before, and you're hoping it's all gonna go to plan. Now, aside from the fact that you're hoping, and hope is for the underprivileged, you're a newbie. How many times have you planned something that you've never done before and it came out exactly as you planned? You ever bake a cake for the first time? That probably flopped as well. And the likelihood is that this will. So just don't do it. My advice to you, words of Joey Swole, mind your own business, do better. So, November the 18th, 2014, Sabrina and Hearn are arrested on suspicion of killing Robert. During the search of Hearn's home, investigators found a motorcycle, a helmet, a red bandana, and a backpack, all matching the description of a mystery man seen on surveillance footage near the crime scene. Additionally, they discovered a grocery bag that was filled with receipts. Remember when I told you about the whole business of trying to poison Robert? The man had all the receipts there. Strange. Despite the fact that Jonathan was arrested and Sabrina was released because there was insufficient evidence against her at the time. This went on for 3 years before they actually went to trial, so they didn't go to trial until 2017. And it was only late in the day that Jonathan decided, yeah, I'm going to turn rat on this woman. I don't really blame him. Why should he go to jail by himself? So yes, he admitted to killing Robert and alleged that Sabrina helped plan it after rejecting his suggestion of divorce. He also stated that Sabrina provided him with information about Robert's work schedule and the layout of the facility where he worked. Sabrina, however, maintained her innocence throughout the trial.
What's the purpose? There can only be one. Tell me another one. I'm waiting. Tell me why you would tell him exactly where Rob's at. You can't find that place by accident. We knew somebody told him. Okay? Now, I'll be honest with you. There's no reason to tell your boyfriend exactly where your husband is working. Absolutely none. Right down to the building. What's the purpose? There can only be one. Tell me another one. I'm waiting. Tell me why you would tell him exactly where Rob's at. You can't find that place by accident. We knew somebody told him.
Denying any involvement in planning her husband's murder or the alleged poisoning plot mentioned by Hearn, but she wasn't fooled. Well, like I said, in February of 2018, she was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The case of Sabrina and Robert Limon captivated the attention of many during the trial. The prosecution presented evidence that clearly pointed towards Sabrina and her lover Jonathan Hearn as the masterminds and perpetrators behind Robert's murder. And Jonathan testified against Sabrina, revealing details of their affair and their plan to poison Robert. He admitted to purchasing arsenic trioxide, a deadly poison, and conducting tests to determine the appropriate dosage. Jonathan's testimony basically painted a picture of a calculated and premeditated murder plot. The defense, however, argued that Jonathan was solely responsible for Robert's death and that Sabrina was coerced into going along with his plan. They claimed that Jonathan manipulated Sabrina and took advantage of her vulnerable state within her troubled marriage. But I ask you, once again, take a good look at this hard-faced woman and tell me if you think she could be manipulated, because I personally don't buy it at all. That woman manipulated? I ain't had it. Throughout the trial, both sides presented their arguments and called witnesses to support their claim. But as I say, Sabrina was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The jury believed that she played an active role in planning and executing the crime. Jonathan, on the other hand, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for a reduced sentence. Hence why he was sentenced to 25 years and 4 months. That's it. And remember, usually. Now, the defense had a few arguments. They even had claims of prosecutorial misconduct. They made several claims in an attempt to overturn the verdict. The alleged prosecutorial misconduct, insufficient evidence, and exposure to extensive media coverage, which they claimed biased the jury.
Marshall bringing up her motion after court was adjourned, once again saying that Limon's former attorney Richard Terry was to blame.
This girl got railroaded. She was not properly defended at trial.
However, the 5th District Court of Appeal rejected these claims and upheld Limon's conviction. The court stated that there was overwhelming evidence of Limon's intent to solicit the murder of her husband Robert and her involvement in the conspiracy with her accomplice Jonathan Hearn. The defense argued that Hearn's testimony wasn't corroborated and that jurors were influenced by media coverage, but the court found that Hearn's statements were indeed supported by evidence, including Robert Limon's murder. Furthermore, the court dismissed the defense's claims of prosecutorial misconduct, stating that they had no basis. The prosecution successfully established Limon's motive for the murder and her financial gain, which we haven't mentioned up till now, from her husband's life insurance policy. Oh, there was a wealth of information and evidence to support the hypotheses or the theory that Sabrina Limon was guilty. And despite their appeals, the appellate court confirmed Sabrina Limon's conviction and life sentence. The defense's claims were thoroughly analyzed and found to be without merit. They were thrown out. There's been plenty of discussion about Hearn's plea deal and his testimony against Limon in a recent court decision. That decision came in January of 2023. The life sentence of Sabrina Limon was upheld, and Jonathan Hearn took a plea deal and testified against her during the trial. And it was his testimony which was crucial in establishing Limon's guilt. He was the one who revealed that the two of them had conspired to kill Limon's husband, Robert Limon, with the intention of Hearn becoming the stepfather to Limon's children. Remember, this case serves as a reminder of the importance of thorough investigations and strong evidence in criminal trials. The testimony of accomplices can also play a significant role in determining guilt or innocence. In other words, be careful of the people who you choose to have as friends. You know what I mean? An examination of the evidence that supported Hearn's statements, the prosecutor, Eric Smith, successfully established Limon's motive, including financial gain. What a surprise. From her husband's life insurance policy. These were just some of the factors that contributed to her sentencing of 25 years to life. But the court also affirmed that there was overwhelming evidence to support Limon's intent to solicit, kill, and conspire with Hearn to commit murder. And despite the appeal process, Sabrina Limon remains convicted and will serve her life sentence for her role in this tragic crime. And with the appellate court's ruling upholding Limon's conviction and sentence, it brings closure to this, quite frankly, sordid tale of love triangles, murder plots, and betrayal that gripped Kern County. Overall, in this instance, the appellate court's decision affirms the strength of the evidence against Sabrina Limon and underscores the importance of justice in cases involving serious crimes like murder. Further discussions on the adequacy of the sentences and public opinion was, how should I say, it was divided. I would say it was divided. There was maybe a majority section of the public who saw the... So let's look at the sentencing of this case. Some argue that the sentences handed down to Sabrina and Jonathan Hearn were too lenient, considering the severity of their crime. Others say that justice was served as both individuals were found guilty and received prison terms. Public opinion played a significant role in this case. Many expressed outrage and disbelief at the actions of Sabrina and Jonathan. The betrayal of trust, the planning of a murder and motive behind it have shocked and disturbed the public. But as someone who's been looking into these things for quite some time, unfortunately it just doesn't disturb me and it doesn't shock people like this. But there is one aspect of this case that cannot and shouldn't be overlooked, and that's the impact on Sabrina's children. The consequences of their mother's actions are undoubtedly going to have a lasting effect on their lives. They're going to have to navigate through the aftermath of a tragedy like this and find ways to heal from such a traumatic experience. They lost their father because their mother planned his murder.
And it's the kids that suffer so bad.
I just hope one day we get to be a part of Robbie and Leanna's life. You know, they're the ones that are suffering in the long term.
This case has raised some important discussions about justice, morality, and the consequences of one's actions. Sabrina and Robert Limon appear to have a perfect life on the surface, but behind closed doors, their marriage was far from traditional. They engaged in swinging mutually until Sabrina decided to have an affair, or two, maybe more. But it was the affair with Jonathan Hearn, a religious firefighter, that led to a love triangle which would ultimately turn deadly. That affair lasted for 2 years. It's a long time to have an affair and then think, okay, let's kill. I don't know. It just seems strange to me. the circumstances. Robert seemed apparently a nice guy and lots of people liked him. And the fact Robert and Sabrina, that is, were in a swinging relationship just suggests to me there was no real need to kill him. But what do I know? This love triangle murder case is a tragic reminder of the importance of trust, communication, and honesty in relationships, and it also highlights the need for individuals to seek healthier solutions when faced with marital difficulties rather than resorting to violence. I mean, come on, killing the man? I don't know about that. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned if you want to watch Sabrina Limon's full interrogation. If not, until next time. Would you rather find out your wife was plotting to poison you or attempt to outrun a bear?
This is one of my partners, Detective Brewer.
How you doing? Kevin Brewer.
Hi, Kevin.
He was talking to me for now. With John.
Yeah, and talking to Robert.
John.
I got a couple of questions for you.
So he he's made this plan. So you think that, I mean, you tell him that, hey, Robert's going to be gone, he's at work, it's a 12-hour shift, maybe we can come over, we can hang out, and he's thinking, today's the day. I'm going to take that drive. I'm going to go take care of business so I can be with her. And I can have her and her family, her kids. The saddest thing is for the kids. Horrible. Because they lost their dad. And he was a good dad. Terrible.
Nice. Terrible. Terrible. It's my fault.
Sabrina, after talking to Jonathan and looking at this, I mean, I helped him with this case for a long time. It looks like there's two people involved. It's you. I don't think you pulled the trigger, did you?
No.
Jonathan did. What did he tell you that was him in that video?
Yesterday.
When?
Yesterday?
Did he tell you before that?
No.
What did you think? He told you that's him in the video.
Well, he hadn't seen the video, but he said it could be me. He said
What? How could that be? I'm confused here.
we just talked a bunch about, he's just said that, you know, detectives can say and do anything that they want.
Did you ask him how that could be him in that video?
I did.
What did he say?
He said that it could be a picture of him at another gas station.
You asked him what he was doing in that gas station? Halfway to where your husband was murdered?
He, from what how I took it, was like another gas station, another place. You know. And I said, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to put?
Did you see the picture of Jonathan on the motorcycle?
Yeah, it's right there.
Do you have any trouble figuring out that's Jonathan? Because frankly, everybody else that knows him has seen it. I mean, you have to know it floated that to them. They've all had no problem with it. And I think you would know him more than any of them, really.
Yeah.
Do you have any problem with that, picking that out of Jonathan?
No.
Do you know anybody else that looks like that has a motorcycle like that would have a reason to kill your husband?
No.
Who else could it be?
No, that's okay. It'll be something else.
Hey, frankly, Sabrina, I've sat on a lot of wiretaps, and I know we've been listening to for a while.
Yeah.
I've sat on a bunch of 33 years in New England. And I can tell you the conversation between you two is not covered up and fair.
Well, that's what I've...
You've already told people about your affair long before this There's no reason to keep this a secret. Keep it from who?
Oh, I haven't told anybody.
Yes, you have.
Who did I tell?
You told people, and so has Jonathan. What? At what
Said
point,
no,
at
you know,
what
but
point
not.
did you think we knew about Jonathan? How do you think we found out about Jonathan?
Phone records.
From what?
From phone records.
No, we have to have probable cause to get search warrants to get the phone records. You told people about you. You've been told to stay away from you, and you know that. We've been listening to you guys for a while, Sabrina. And I know Detective Meyer is trying his best to get you to tell us the truth. And you have to know that. John was arrested the same time you were. We just got about him done going to jail. There's a great many questions that we need to have you answer for us. Okay? Tell me what I think. When your secret boyfriend finds out exactly where your husband is in a different county, 2.5 hours away, drives up here and kills him. What do I think? How in the world would he find out where that place is? I couldn't even find it when they sent us there.
That's my fault.
Absolutely. What's it look like to me?
No.
Let me tell you what it looked like to a jury. This is all I do. It's all I've been doing for many years. Let me tell you what a jury's going to think. The same thing I am right now and the same thing you are. We've got some problems. You need to tell me why you're not an accomplice to this murder.
Why am I not?
Yeah.
Because I would never want Robert dead. I would never want him dead. Ever.
Yes, you did. You guys have been talking for weeks and weeks about how this is God's will. That you guys get together and marry. It's all God's will. It's almost every conversation of every day about how killing your husband and you two getting together is God's will. Bathsheba. Didn't we talk about that?
They had said,
Well, tell me that story. Tell me the story
I
of
don't
David and
know.
Bathsheba.
I don't know that. I don't know it.
You don't know that story? He says that's our life, and you went yes.
Well, whatever I read,
You don't remember?
no, I don't
He
remember.
takes another man's wife that has his husband murdered, had her husband murdered, killed. There's a whole other around here that sounds to me like the woman fell in love with another man that had her husband killed.
I would never want Robert killed, ever.
Why did you tell him where Robert's at?
I was going to see him, and I would tell him when Robert was working and stuff, and
Why were you so worried about the DNA stuff he found?
I thought that was good. The DNA.
No, that's not what the conversations are. No.
Well, the DNA was
No,
good.
no, it's panic. Hey,
No.
I can read a few of them to you. That's not.
Yeah. Well,
You talk about how good it is after you figure out we're probably listening to you. Before that, it's all panic, which is exactly why we told you that. Okay?
I just didn't want to be publicized as
So
having
you
an
two
affair.
already, both of you have already told people about this affair. Why keep it from us? We knew about it from the minute. He's got 500 of your phone calls on his thing every day. You think we're not going to know?
I thought that I didn't know. I was worried about that. I know. It doesn't look bad. I know how bad. I know that it looks bad, but
I think this past looked bad.
I get it.
It looked bad for a while, and then it got bad because we thought the other stuff that you have to know. We can't tell you all of this. This thing's got to get prosecuted. Okay. But it looked bad for a while, and then it just got bad. And I think it's because it is bad. Okay. All we talk about is this: we have to stop sinning, and you guys are still together. I'm confused with these calls. I really am. Do you think God meant for you and Jonathan to be together? Is that what you guys are talking about? When you're praying that the DNA doesn't let us find out? Would you want me to read that one to you? You're praying that the DNA doesn't let us find out. Find out what? If his DNA is at the scene of the murder, what am I going to find out? That you two were laying around together? I'll find out that Jonathan killed him. We already knew that. We had those motorcycle pictures long before you know. Okay? And we had somebody call us and say, you need to look at this guy right here. Months ago, not weeks. Because he's calling us up, trying to apologize for something, and we haven't figured out what he did. But he keeps crying and apologizing. Okay? Where's his tailpipe?
I have no idea.
He didn't tell you what he did with his tailpipe?
No, I didn't even know that he.
You notice he's got a different pipe on the bike?
Louder. The exhaust is louder, it sounds louder.
I'll be honest, I don't pay attention to any of that kind of stuff. I just know the writing on the bike. That's all I know.
Yesterday, when I told you that the tip came in and we had a John, how come you gave me two different John's names?
Because that was John. Those were the Johns that Robert with.
Why wouldn't you just tell me then? I mean, you had to know that shit's hit the fan.
Yeah, I felt like, oh, Jonathan, okay.
Why wouldn't you tell me? Here's the deal. It's not just about an affair. Your husband was murdered. That's more important than this freaking affair you guys were having. You know what I mean? Here's another thing. I can tell you, I don't care where the hell I was at. Day, night, whatever. If my wife was murdered, I would be standing at that fucking scene, finding out why and what. Give me some answers. And you didn't even come out there.
He told us that we weren't allowed to.
I don't care if they told me I couldn't go out there. I would be there, standing there, saying,
Oh, I wanted
tell
to.
me something. You didn't? I don't care if they tell me I couldn't. You're going to tell me that I can't drive a fucking catastrophe. It's a free world. I'm going to go where I want to go. And I'm going to go there and I'm going to talk to whoever to find out what's going on. That's suspicious to me, too. And I know you're having an affair. You're living two.
I wanted to come up, but
You're living two different lives and stuff, like you said.
he said it was all roped off and they won't let anybody
Oh,
out.
I should have been getting my way to that crime scene. I don't know what the hell happened to my life.
God has a purpose. He sees all. He does. He knows all. He does. He has a purpose for us in our marriage. He even knew that Rob was going to get killed. When he told you that's him in the video, why were you not burning his phone up to tell you, I found out who killed my husband?
I mean, you said it looked like him.
Because your relationship with Jonathan is more important than your husband was.
No.
You should have been tearing his phone up. Jonathan just told me that's him in the video. Okay? Why didn't we get that call?
I asked him, I said, what
And you don't need to ask him anything. Tell me why you didn't call us.
He said it could have been planned, like it could
No,
have been.
there's no could have. Okay? That's not, it's a glass of water. It's not a house, it's not a car. I can't tell you that, well, that could be a chair. It's a glass of water. That could be me in the video. What do you mean it could be you? It either is or is not. And if he's in the video, that's the video of the suspect. We all know that. You know that, don't you? That guy in that video walked into the place where your husband was and killed him and then ran off. And he tells you that could be me in the video. What did you think? I'm more than confused here, Sabrina. I'm really telling you. I think you're flat in the middle of this murder. I think he's such a husband. I've had him killed by Jonathan, so you two can be together. And I can tell you that's not going to happen, ever. Okay? You need to get that through your head now. You are not going to be together. You're going to end up going to prison for the rest of his life. And I've got some serious doubts about you. Okay?
Okay, understood.
There's no reason to tell your boyfriend exactly where your husband is working. Absolutely none. Right down to the building. What's the purpose? There can only be one. Tell me another one. I'm waiting. Tell me why you would tell him exactly where Rob's at. You can't find that place by accident. We knew somebody told him. Okay? Now, I'll be honest with you, from day one, when he told me about, I wasn't there to murder. He come back and told me. So we got a problem. It's a long time of the day for somebody to get burglarized. And burglars don't just shoot people for no reason. Okay? Something else went on. It was all fishy looking. It was real fishy to me. I said, somebody has got a relationship. We better start looking at it. I was 3 or 4 days after the murder before we knew anything. Okay? Because this whole thing stunk to me from day one. Somebody told him, somebody where that guy went at. You can't just find him. There's not anything to take in that place anyway. All those businesses next door have got tons of stuff that you could sell. Not that place. Tools. That's it. Train repair craft. You can't sell that. He told you that could be me in the video. That should have been the end of it right there.
And then I told you that was our suspect, and you didn't say anything. You know what I mean? I said, this is our suspect. No, okay. Gigs up. That's Jonathan Hearn. You didn't tell me anything.
I should have told you that.
You should have.
The black helmet, I didn't.
He never told you
see.
it was him in the video, Sabrina. You already knew it. Okay? He didn't tell you that. You already knew it. You know dang well it's him. You know how he walks. That was my brother in that video. I'd peg him in a minute. You know. And when we put the picture of Jonathan on his bike down in front of you, you don't need to sit and stare at it for 15 minutes. You knew exactly who it was. And you should have said it. It's Jonathan. That's Jonathan's bike. Everybody else did. Why couldn't you say it? You knew it was him. You knew it was him on his bike. You know exactly where the picture's taken.
Where it's taken?
Yeah, it's taken about 300 feet from where your husband's killed. He's leaving right after he kills him. Okay? He told you he did this, and he told you because you guys wanted to, if he wants to be with you, you need to tell us now. If not, all we're left to think with. And you know, if we've been listening to what you guys have been talking about for weeks and weeks, what we've done. Okay?
Yeah, I understand.
And you come down here, and he purposely tells you we haven't got nothing, just to see what you'll say, and you burn up the phone. They ain't got nothing. Okay? We're okay. They ain't got nothing. What's it sound like? What will it sound like?
Well, he did say that yesterday. I don't.
At what point did he tell you he shot Rob? And don't tell me he didn't. I know better.
He said that was him yesterday.
No. I ain't gonna cut it. Hey?
He never said he
You
shot.
think about 6 or 7 old ladies sitting on that jury, and this guy says, that's me in the video. Huh? And they said, what happened? I don't know. She didn't cut it. She still, it took us, 15 minutes into an interview to get her to say that. She didn't call us. Okay? And the prosecutor says, folks, that's how much she cares about the husband. Okay? Her new boyfriend killed him, and she don't even care. And what will your kids think when they find out? And the whole world is going to find out in the next 3 days, because all this paperwork goes public. Not a thing we can do about it. Okay? All kinds of stuff. calls, everything. You want people hearing some of that stuff without explaining some of the stuff to us?
No.
Tell me when he told you he killed your husband, because he did and he told you. Okay? Or you knew it already. If he didn't tell you, you knew it already. And you knew it before you did it.
I didn't know.
Then how did he find out where your husband is to go kill him?
It's my fault.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yes. When he asks about where your husband is, what do you think he's asking for? Go buy him a milkshake? Say, hi, I'm doing your wife. But what do you think he's going to do? When did he tell you? You're not going to get another shot at this, I'm telling you. We're going to leave here in a minute, and we're not going to talk to you again. You'll want to, but your attorney won't let you, and it's too late. I won't talk to you, really. We're done. We will take what we have and go with it. You wouldn't be here if we didn't have enough. Okay? Breda, if you did something, you don't want to tell us that you've got to now. You understand?
I understand.
If he didn't, if you never intended for him to go do this, and he went and did it, and you didn't plan this, and you had things, and you get scared because he's done it, you think you're wrapped up. I can understand that. I've had a lot of people in these situations, a lot. Bunches of them. Little girls that drive people, little youngsters to all, but I didn't know they were going to go in there and kill people. It happens, okay?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're in the middle of this, plotted it, planned it, or anything else. He may have went off and done something stupid on his own. But don't tell me you didn't know, because we know you did. This has been nothing but cover up. Oh my God, I hope they don't. God wants it to be together. I hope the DNA doesn't. Okay? That's got nothing to do with this affair. What the DNA got to do with you two being together. And how are we going to find out that you two are right if all we have is his DNA?
Yeah.
Okay? His DNA at the scene means only one thing. That's a suspect.
Yeah. I understand that.
Did you plan to kill Rob?
No. Oh my God, no.
When did Jonathan tell you to get it? Don't tell me yesterday again.
He never came
did.
out and
Yes, he
said.
did. Yes, he did. You guys are doing nothing but hiding this thing the whole time. Yes, he did.
No.
Well, what are you trying to hide?
I know. I know it doesn't look good.
No. There's a difference between doesn't look good and absolutely is not good. This is absolutely not good.
I understand that.
Okay?
I understand that. He never told me that he was going up there that day. I had told him where Robert.
Why? We're still back to that one, and I'm still sitting here waiting for a reason why you would tell Jonathan where your husband is. Are you going to come up with some answer between now and trial time?
They're going to see each other. So I can talk to him.
About what?
That's why.
About what? What's he going to say? I got to know. I'm sending my boyfriend to talk to my husband.
No, he never said he was.
What did you think he was going to do if he's asking about where Rob's at?
He didn't ask that day.
Why did you tell him?
I had told him, prior in conversations.
Why?
He'd asked,
What?
I believe, about Tehachapi. We just talked about, what Rob did and just talked.
You didn't know what Rob did?
Yeah, but up in Tehachapi as a responder.
Okay, so why is it important for anybody in the world, really, to know exactly where Rob's at?
Well, from your now on the other side, I don't know. He shouldn't have. I shouldn't have it.
When you told him exactly where Rob was at, and Rob ends up getting killed, did you put two and two together at all?
Not at first. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I heard. I couldn't believe that it happened. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know why.
You didn't figure out, gee, I just told Jonathan, who wants to be with me forever, does not want me to be with my husband. I'm back to saying exactly where my husband's at, and now my husband gets killed in the middle of a Sunday afternoon in broad daylight.
No, I didn't.
It didn't dawn on you?
I didn't think of him. No, I didn't. I thought I couldn't believe Rob was gone, and I thought about our affair, and I felt I can't describe how I felt.
Okay, tell me anybody else in the world that have a reason, besides Jonathan, to kill your husband. Anybody. Has he owed money? Is he in the Russian mafia? Has he beat up people? Alleged rapists or anything at all? So who has the only motive that you know of to kill your husband?
The only thing I thought it was.
What did Jonathan have to gain if he killed Rob? What's the prize? You. Correct? And he has you all to himself. Is that correct? And he gets killed after you tell him where he's at, and you don't put it together. I don't think you're that dumb, Sabrina. I really don't. No one's going to. They were back to you having killed.
No.
Because if you don't suspect it, and at some point Jonathan's got to tell him. Okay? Did you ask him, hey Jonathan, don't you think it's odd that after I tell you where he's at, somebody goes over there and kills him? For no apparent reason?
I did say.
And? What was the answer?
Questions.
What did he say? Oh no, I didn't?
He just said that's crazy.
And you believe him? Enough to stay with him, you did. But make future plans. Start talking about how you're going to raise Rob's children with him.
I know, Kevin. I know. I believe it.
Jonathan ever tell you about the handguns he owns? How many?
I just knew that he had one gun.
Talking about a 45 again? 45 caliber?
I didn't know what kind it was.
And he's got one and it's missing. Nobody can find it. Wonder where that's at. Same caliber used to kill your husband. The only thing worse than keeping the murder weapon is getting rid of it when it's registered to you. Not being able to tell us where it's at. Oops, I lost it. Oops, I don't know where it's at. Oh, I forgot where I put it.
That's what he said.
You know what I mean? You know how stupid that sounds? But seriously, that's almost as believable as I told him exactly where he was at, and he ends up dead in that spot, and I don't think this guy killed him. Did you tell anybody else exactly where Rob was at that day?
Well, yeah, I mean, beaten into atrophy, you know. I didn't tell Jonathan, like, directions that day. It was prior, like we talked about.
How did you find him?
Months. It was months. I'd say probably months prior. And I want to remember how exactly that conversation went.
So how did Jonathan know he's there that day?
I had told him.
You told him Jonathan's attached.
Robert isn't.
Robert's attached, working. And that day he gets murdered. And you don't figure that out.
I had talked to Jonathan.
And you don't bother to tell him or anyone else. By the way, the day my husband is murdered, I told my boyfriend where he was. What's it sound like? What's it going to sound like, Sabrina?
I understand that.
I can go on and on with this thing, and that's going to happen at the trial. But I'm not going on much longer. The rest of it should be one year later, and probably not what we should have, ever. Okay? part of this thing, and we all think you did, you wouldn't be here. You need to start figuring out how to convince us that you didn't know. I told you, he did something stupid, and you didn't know he did it, and you had nothing to do with planning it. Okay? And he says, sorry, honey, I had to do this for us to be together. Whatever he did, whatever he told you, you need to tell us now. Okay? If you're going to stick to this, yesterday he finally told me he killed my husband. Basically.
Well, these conversations have been the same, since.
No, they haven't. No, they've changed drastically all the time. The only major theme is God wants you two to be together, according to him. And God sees everything and knows everything. What did God see the day Rob got killed? Same thing we saw. His motorcycle, Jonathan's motorcycle leaving the crime scene. Okay? I mean, who does he think he's fooling? Who are you guys fooling here? I don't get it. He tells you that you and Kim are David and Bathsheba's story, and you agree.
I didn't.
You'll hear that again, trust me. That one was almost unbelievable for me, because that's exactly what happened. Exactly. Know that for us to be together, one spouse has got to be out of the picture permanently. Now, why divorce was an option, I don't know.
Divorce would have been an option for me, not murder.
Well, then why did it get to this? Was it not an option and that didn't go over well with Jonathan? That's what it sounds like. I've had a few of those. See, if you won't divorce him, I'll get rid of him for you.
Yeah.
No. I think yes.
I understand.
If you won't divorce him, then Jonathan's got to go to Plan B. Doesn't he? I mean, Jonathan's got to go where he's at, and he got that out of you. And frankly, I could sit here for 2 or 3 hours, and I don't think you'd ever explain that one. There's only one explanation for that one. Just exactly what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? What everybody else outside is thinking. Okay? Told him exactly what it was, and you're not going to do exactly what you guys planning to do. Killed your husband. Shot him straight in the face. Okay? Tell me what Rob deserved that. Tell me what Rob's children done to have their dad taken away by your boyfriend. Tell me. What did they do? And who suffers? Huh? You don't. They do. Their whole life. They want their dad back. And who took them? And who helped them take it? What are they going to think? Trust me, Sabrina, I've never talked to anybody yet that thought they wouldn't get away with it, or you wouldn't do it. Everybody does. It's all well planned. All of it. All of the interviews are rehearsed on the phone with him. Yeah, we listened to them. They were impressive. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say and not say, and we're going to Google DNA and Google all this stuff to make sure that we're not giving them enough information to find out. Okay? But that stuff we already knew. Now, before this thing comes to an end, okay, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did Jonathan tell you he killed your husband?
He never told me that. Just entire, it just all led up to all the things that he'd said. Led up to that. All the conversations. Just not specifically, I shot Rob.
conversations leading up to what? The murder?
No, not the murder. No, that conversation that day was normal. Besides,
So you're talking about the conversations that happened
after the murder,
and what were you guys talking about?
just the murder.
Hello. I think that a decision needs to be made right now. You requested this. You wanted to talk to Randall. We're 4 hours into this, and you haven't said anything different to him than what you told me. If you have something you need to say, right now's the time, because otherwise I'm ready to cut this off.
I think you guys, I mean,
You think what?
everything that has been said has been evidence that it's clear. And it's my fault for telling Jonathan where Robert was that day.
And it most certainly is. It is your fault. But, I mean, for the last 4 hours, Detective Myers told you that you're holding on to something. There's something that you know that you're not telling us. Right now, I would have more respect if you said, hey, I'm going to say anything to you. You don't like me. I know you don't like me. I'm good with that. You think I'm the mean guy. I get accused of it all the time. But it's time to shit or get off the pot. I mean, okay, let me ask you this. You wanted to speak to him. What did you want to tell him that was so different than what you told me already? Prolong the inevitable? Sitting in a jail cell?
No. I wanted to apologize for not being honest with him. Telling him about our relationship before.
That's the only thing that you want to apologize for, is for not telling us about an affair?
Then it's my fault.
We've established that. And I'm not here to kick you in the teeth. Robert is dead because of you. Make no mistakes about that. That is something that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. That is something that your children are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. No matter what happens now, little Robbie's going to know that Jonathan killed his dad. I told you down there in Boron, I could care less about you. I care about your kids. They didn't ask for this. You're a grown woman. You made decisions. And why you would tell the man, he's not a man, he's a coward. He's a scumbag. Why you would tell the guy that you're sharing a bed with where your husband works, beyond me. If you don't have anything for us, I think we need to get you to jail. I'll take that as a yes, I do not have anything to tell you. Is that fair? Is that pretty fair?
I've said everything that we...
Okay, yeah, you told him the same thing that you told me, only I wasn't patient for 4 hours. I was kind of trying to move it along after about an hour of listening to you tell me that. He's a lot nicer than me, a lot more patient. So what I need you to do is I need you to stand up and turn around.